After dropping a 52-7 decision to fourth-ranked Minnesota State Mankato in a lightning delay game on Saturday, October 14th, the Upper Iowa Peacocks look to rebound this week with a road game at Augustana of South Dakota. Joining me right now is Joe Stasi, the play-by-play voice of Upper Iowa football, who's calling all 11 games this season on AM 950 KOEL. And Joe, thanks as always for your time.
And right back at you. Upper Iowa certainly appreciates getting a little pub and promoting and talking about the Upper Iowa football program, the only NCAA Division II program in the great state of Iowa.
Well, as we talked last week prior to that game against the Mavericks, we knew this was going to be a difficult test for Upper Iowa on Saturday. As I mentioned, a 52-7 loss, a game that featured a lightning delay, so the start of the game was pushed back due to weather. How much of a factor do you think that played in this game last weweek?
Really none. It played a factor for the fans and the broadcasters. You know, we do the game on AM 950 KOEL, of course, as you know, and then it is also on KCRG TV 9.3. And so, you know, when you get up there, you know, as you know, you get up to your press box 2.5 hours early. You get your game notes all solidified. You get all your promotional reads in place, and you get your producer on the radio side ready, and you get your producer on the TV side ready, and you're all geared up, and then all of a sudden the front moves in, and lightning starts to strike, and now you're just kind of scrambling, and you're looking for NCAA rules as to how long the delays are, and then you're looking at the radar, and you're trying to figure out how, you know, you're trying to be a weatherman and predict the weather. And you're trying to figure out how long this thing could possibly drag out, and if the delay lasts until midnight, do we still get the football game in, and stuff like that. So what the coaches do is they just get their players in a safe area, and they try to keep them warm as possible, move around, don't sit down and be complacent, always be stretching, and lo and behold, it was only about an hour and a half total delay, if I'm not mistaken. I believe we got kicked off at not even that long, to be honest with you. I think we kicked off at 5:45. So, you know, a 45-minute delay, and they skipped the pregame activities as far as the national anthem and stuff like that, ironically enough, with everything that's going on with the national anthem. But they just got the teams back out onto the field. They had a 5-minute quick warm-up, and then they lined it up and went after it.
You often say these teams pass the eye test, and I'm sure Minnesota State Mankato was that way. They're a very powerful football team in the Northern Sun Conference. Yeah,
they came in ranked 4th in the United States of America, and they were down a little bit last year. And what that means for that football program is that they're 8-3, and they just missed the playoffs. We finished up the season last year on the road against Minnesota State, and we played our best game ever. In I believe the 12 meetings, and we lost 33-22. We played a very competitive ball game, and we knew that this year their team was different. They had another year to grow, another year to get these players bigger, faster, and stronger, and they filled a few different holes with some transfers, and they were just bigger and better than us. And there's just no question about it. 588 yards to 150. Our offense couldn't get any traction. I believe you're looking at 26 first downs compared to 6 for Upper Iowa, and you know, when you can't do anything on first downs, it really sets you back. And you know, when you're looking at 3rd and 7 and 3rd and 8s all the time against a defense that just pins their ears back and comes at you and dominates the line of scrimmage, there wasn't a whole lot we could do. And Upper Iowa didn't give up. They put a nice drive together. I believe in the first half. I don't have my notes in front of me. Brett Lammers hit Skylar Lehman for 2 passes in a row, and we got in the end zone, and you know, so we didn't give up, and the defense played hard the entire game, but you know, they were just too much for us to handle. The Minnesota State Mavericks are going to make a run at a national championship, and make no mistake about it, they're two different institutions. Upper Iowa is a private school. It's very, you know, the tuition is a lot. It's a lot more expensive to go to Upper Iowa, and then the tradition at Minnesota State. You're getting these athletes that you know, many of them could go to Division I schools and play. They choose to go Division II so they can get on the field a couple more years. But you know, they have a terrific tradition to recruit, and hats off to Minnesota State and Todd Huffman. He does a terrific job of coaching and recruiting, and like you said, they passed the eye test. they look like a Division I football team when they get off the bus.
A little more about how the day went for Upper Iowa. Minnesota State Mankato's average starting field position was at their own 39-yard line. Upper Iowa's was at their own 21. The Mavericks scored 8 times in their 16 possessions, including 7 touchdowns and a 25-yard field goal. They held Upper Iowa to only 14 yards rushing and 136 passing yards. But there was one other interesting statistic out of this game, Joe, that I know you're well aware of. The Mavericks were penalized 8 times for 102 yards. Upper Iowa never committed a penalty.
Yeah, that's a weird stat. I know that Minnesota State came into this game leading the NSIC in penalties per game. Some discipline problems up front. Legal procedure calls on the offensive line, and then on the defensive line, some encroachment penalties for the most part, a couple pass interference calls. But they're just very, very aggressive, and I'm sure Coach Huffman wants to shore that up going into the playoff, because once you get into the playoffs, you're playing teams that are your caliber, and you don't want to make those kind of mistakes. So they definitely need to shore that up before they get into the NCAA playoffs and make a run at a national championship.
The 52-7 win improves Minnesota State's record to 7-0. Upper Iowa now 4-3 overall, 1-2 against the Northern Sun Conference South Division heading into this week's game against Augustana of South Dakota. The Vikings snapped a 3-game skid with a 30-8 win over Southwest Minnesota State last week, and that's the opponent that Upper Iowa will see next weekend. Augustana comes into this game 3-4 overall, 1-2 now in Northern Sun Conference play. But this is traditionally a very challenging opponent as well for Upper Iowa.
Yeah, again, that NSIC South and Northern Sun South, for those casual fans that are out there listening in, Minnesota State Mavericks and Mankato, they're ranked 4th in the country. Winona State out of Winona, Minnesota, they're 13th in the country. These were the rankings going into last week. And then you have Sioux Falls, South Dakota. They're 18th in the country, followed by Upper Iowa, Wayne State, Nebraska, Augustana, South Dakota, and then Southwest Minnesota State University. It's Murderer's Row. And, these are some of the best NCAA Division II programs in the country, and they come right out of our conference. And so we definitely, Upper Iowa, when they joined the NCAA Division II ranks, we got into the toughest conference and then in the toughest division. So week in and week out, it's very, very tough to get wins in the NSIC South. But this is a winnable football game for Upper Iowa. We're 1-9 lifetime against the Augustana Vikings. We're going up there. They have a beautiful facility. I believe it's a $16-17 million facility. They're steeped in tradition as well. They're always in the hunt for the playoffs, it seems like. And right now they're down a little bit. They lost an all NSIC and an all-American caliber quarterback in Trey Hyde, and they're trying to replace him and find their identity offensively. Defensively, it seems like I say this every week, but the NSIC, whether it's the North or the South, very, very good defensive teams. They're big, they're strong, they're physical, they're deep on the defensive line, so they really pin their ears back, much like Minnesota State, and they're going to come at you. They finally got their offense going last week against Southwest Minnesota State, who's a good football team, beating Southwest Minnesota State Mustangs 30-8, and they only gave up. I think it was well under 100 yards rushing to Southwest Minnesota State, and a season low, giving up only 8 points. It's going to be a dogfight, and Upper Iowa goes up there, and if you play close to a perfect football game, you don't turn the football over. Offensively, we just need to execute that NASCAR package, and if you're not picking up 4, 5, 6 yards on first down, then you need to slow your tempo down offensively, get into a huddle, and see if you can move the chains on 3rd and short or 3rd and manageable and pick up those 3rd down conversions, because if you don't, it could be a long day against Augustana.
Yeah, and fans that love offensive games might be in for one this weekend. Last year when these two got together in Fayette, there was almost 1,200 yards of offense between the two teams. Augustana had 652 and Upper Iowa had 540. You
know exactly how exhausted you are after broadcasting a game like that, right? It was incredible. 54-35 was the score. And, Upper Iowa was in that football game. We turned the football over 2 or 3 times if my memory serves me correct. And that was the difference in the football game. We stayed with these guys. And again, they had a terrific quarterback by the name of Trey Hyde, and he could run the ball, he could throw the ball, and they don't have that luxury this year, even though they still have the same prototype quarterback. He is a runner, he is a thrower, but he's not as good as the four-year starter Trey Hyde is, and it should be interesting. I know that the goal for Upper Iowa, and for Upper Iowa to get in this MSIC, and Tom Shea and his staff have done a marvelous job of recruiting, and mostly in-state kids. The kids that aren't in-state in this program are within 3 to 4 hours away. We have 54 Iowa kids on this roster. Many of them are on the 2D. Many of them start. And the whole goal is to compete and win in this league. Obviously, you want to win every game. It's typically not feasible. Upper Iowa had back in 2014, I believe it was, or maybe even 15. We started 5-0 with Cole Jaspy and Chris Smith and Lucas Hefty and that gang of offensive stars. But we still have a winning. My whole point is we still have a shot at a winning record, and boy, this would be a signature win to go beat Augustana on the road. We've never beat them in their home stadium, and you look at the record and you think, oh man, this is a very winnable game. Well, I wouldn't say very winnable. I would say it's a pretty evenly matched football game. They get the advantage because they're at home. And if Upper Iowa comes out and smacks them in the mouth and just continues to play they have been defensively, pick up a yardage on first down, and continue to move the chains. You can't win football games with 6 first downs. That's just the way it is. And if you go up there and do those things and take care of the football, keep it within a one possession going into the fourth quarter, I like our chances.
Barring any weather delays this week, kickoff is set for 1 p.m. on Saturday at Kirkeby-Over Stadium in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Pre-game coverage with Joe Stasi starting at 12:30 in the afternoon on AM 950 KOEL. And Joe, before I let you go today, I wanted to touch briefly on next week's contest against Southwest Minnesota State. As you know, Upper Iowa will be back home, and it's always a big game for Upper Iowa when they're hosting homecoming.
Yeah, Upper Iowa turns into a small little, goes from being a small village into a big town, if you will. There's just so many activities going on, and that's a 2 o'clock kickoff. And I implore people, hopefully we have great weather on that Saturday, on the 28th. If you're not doing anything Saturday, bring your family up to Harm's Eye Shide. I believe it's $10 for adults, $5 for children. It's a terrific small college atmosphere. There's the concessions are awesome. The seating is awesome. It's beautiful scenery, and you'll see Upper Iowa take on Southwest Minnesota State Mustangs, one of their rivals from Marshall, Minnesota. It's going to be a terrific afternoon. I can't wait, but I don't want to put the cart before the horse. We have a wonderful chance to get our 5th win against Augustana, and with Southwest Minnesota State, Sioux Falls, and Wayne State yet to play after Augustana. You get that 5th win, and then if you want to get that 6th win, all you got to do is knock off one of those 3 teams, and Sioux Falls is going to be a very tough task. They're ranked in the top 15 in the country, but we have a great chance against Augustana. I think we have a terrific opportunity against Southwest Minnesota State at homecoming on August 28th at Harm's Eye Shide Stadium on campus at Upper Iowa. Then we have Sioux Falls on November 4th at Harm's Eye Shide Stadium. That's an 11 o'clock kickoff. If you want to see another national caliber team, that would be a good game to go to as well. And then Upper Iowa finishes off the season at Wayne State on November 11th. So it's still a terrific opportunity to have a very respectable season. And I know Coach Shea is telling his guys, hey, let's get to 7 wins. Let's get to 8 wins. You tell your kids that, you prepare to go out and win every game, and you've seen college football this year. There's upsets all over the place, and this would definitely be one, in my opinion, if we could get a win at Augustana this weekend.
Definitely a key ball game. Again, it starts at 1 o'clock. Pre-game coverage at 12:30 on AM 950 KOEL. And Joe, best of luck to the Peacocks on Saturday.
And as always, Elwin, thank you so very much for everything you do for Upper Iowa and sports in Northeast Iowa. Be safe out there.